Hey everyone, welcome back to Kubrick Corner with me, Sean Wilson. It's been a week or so since the Oscar nominations were announced, and I've kind of left this video for a little while. One, to let my thoughts settle about the 91st Academy Awards, and two, because frankly, I don't place that much stock in the Oscars, and I didn't feel a need to provide a hasty reaction to it, because frankly, since when a movie's defined by awards? Since when is a movie's quality defined by awards? The answer is never. If a great movie wins awards, brilliant. If a great movie doesn't win awards, it still stands up as a great movie. So I'm quite cynical about Oscars and about movie awards in general. We've just gone through the Golden Globes, which are normally a load of fatuous nonsense. But actually, having said that, and at the risk of sounding like a bit of a hypocrite, that this year's Oscar nominations are actually quite interesting. Well, firstly, let's get the usual grievances out of the way first, because there are always a lot of grievances with the Oscars in terms of who they nominate and who they leave out. There were some unfortunate surprises this year. Michael B. Jordan not being nominated for his brilliant performance as the villain as Killmonger in Black Panther. That was disappointing. Lack of recognition for female directors. Somewhat surprisingly, Marielle Heller was not nominated for Can You Ever Forgive Me, although that was obviously nominated for Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant. No nomination for Deborah Granick for the magnificent Leave No Trace. No nomination for Chloe Zhao for The Rider, which was one of my favourite films last year. And in fact, Leave No Trace almost got on my list of favourite films last year. It was heartbreaking having to leave that out. If you haven't seen Leave No Trace, go and see it. Lots of other peculiar absences as well. No nomination for Best Original Score for Justin Hurwitz for First Man, which is very, very odd, given how that movie prioritised its score, and indeed how Justin Hurwitz won the Golden Globe for Best Original Score. That's very, very peculiar. And perhaps most surprisingly, no nomination for Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born. I can only assume that the Academy kind of sees the Best Picture nomination, which A Star Is Born got, as kind of compensation for the fact that Cooper's not been recognised for Best Director. And to be fair, he has been nominated for Best Actor as well. So perhaps they thought the double whammy of Best Picture and Best Actor will make up for the lack of Best Director. But that's obviously upset quite a lot of people. Apart from that, so usual laundry list of controversies and weird omissions and weird choices in the Oscars. This year's Oscars are actually historic in a number of ways, and in a number of very, very brilliantly significant ways. First, the Black Panther, first ever superhero movie in the history of the genre to be nominated for Best Picture. That's fantastic. Would that Ryan Coogler had been nominated for Best Director, which he ought to have been. I was also stumping for Rachel Morrison to be nominated for Best Cinematography, but she wasn't. Spike Lee got his first ever director nomination for The Brilliant Black Klansman. Astonishing to think that Spike Lee has been making films since the mid-80s and has never been nominated for Best Director before. He's been nominated for Best Screenplay, but never for Best Director. Richard E. Grant scoops his first ever Oscar nomination for Can You Ever Forgive Me? Again, Richard E. Grant, the word longevity describes Richard E. Grant. He's been in all manner of cult classics like With Nell and I, notorious flops like Hudson Hawk, and he's directed personal projects like Wah Wah. He's an enduringly popular presence, and his Oscars reaction video is wonderful. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. So yeah, actually, on reflection, I think this year's Oscar nominations are an interesting bunch. I think the Oscars it's a very, very sort of slow process of change in the Oscars, and whenever it looks like they've marked as kind of sea change, there's always a kind of foolish decision that's sort of one step forward, two steps back kind of thing. But this year it looks like they've actually addressed some of the issues around diversity, and they've lessened some of the snobbery towards some of the films that they're usually snobbish towards. Yeah, I think this year's Oscars is actually interesting. It gets underway on the 24th of February. For my money, I think that A Star Is Born will get Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Sam Elliott, and Best Original Song for Shallow. I think that's kind of guaranteed. I think The Favourite will get Best Director for Yorgos Lanthimos, Best Actress for Olivia Colman, Best Original Screenplay for Deborah Davis, Tony McNamara, and also Cinematography, Production Design, and Costume Design. I think If Beale Street Could Talk, which is another one of the relatively more overlooked movies in this year's Oscars, especially when you consider that Barry Jenkins' previous movie Moonlight was so fated a few years ago, I reckon that will get Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actress for Regina King. Those are just some of the ways in which I think this year's Oscars are going to break down on the 24th of February, but we'll find out soon enough in a few weeks' time. So if you have any thoughts on this year's Oscar nominations, what's been nominated, what's been left out, what you think is going to win, let me know here at Kubrick Corner, and I'll see you soon. Bye.